Thanks for checking out this episode of the Rookie Big Board podcast. If you enjoy it, please make sure to subscribe, and you can check out all of my work, patreon.com/TheFFEducator. This is episode 14 of the Rookie Big Board podcast. I'm your host, Matt Hicks, the FF Educator. On this episode, we're going to be taking a look at rookies, specifically in the best ball format. It's a little bit of a unique look, but I've done a couple guest spots. My rookie projections pre-draft are in, and so this is a really good opportunity here as best ball draft season is kicking up and folks are really interested in talking about it. I thought this would be a perfect topic to talk about. Now, I myself have really jumped into best ball pre-NFL draft. That's not something I would have done probably 3 or 4 years ago, but I felt very empowered by the Rookie Big Board process to get ahead and grab some value on rookies pre-draft, because it's post-draft that the average fantasy football player picks up on it and starts to understand the incoming rookie value a little bit better. So we're going to do a couple things on today's episode. I'm going to start by giving an overview of production from 2018 to 2020 and what we can realistically expect from our rookies. I'm doing that very intentionally in a 3-year period. I'm going to talk about this a little bit more, but it's also intentional because it factors into my season-long projections NFL-wide, and the fact that I've already started to forecast rookies in there, and I think I have a good idea of what their stat line may be if they hit the landing spot draft capital in kind of scheme fit that I am looking for them to do. Next, I'm going to go through some good values. There's definitely some really good rookie values out there right now. There's also some not so good values. I'm seeing overpaying in a few spots, and so I'm going to talk about that as well. And I'm going to talk about whether or not it's even a smart idea to take some late round flyers on the rookies. So let's get right into it here and talk about production. By the way, I should mention, right now I am primarily, in the ADP that I'm going to be referring to, I'm primarily playing on Underdog Fantasy Football. It's a mobile app. It's really great. It's my preferred way to play best ball just because it's so easy. You can get in at like $3 a game, $5 a game, $10. You can do like 50 or 100 if you want to get in like that. But I'm doing a ton of them. I probably have 8 or 10 slow drafts going on at once, so I'm getting a lot of rookie ADP just myself, but I'm using their actual ADP. You could pull their ADP right from their website, and so that's what I did, and I just cross-referenced it against my rookie projections and my rookie rankings, and so that's kind of where I'm getting these numbers from. Now, if you want to try out Underdog Fantasy Football for the first time, like I said, it's a mobile app. You could also do the desktop. I really enjoy it. I'm not affiliated with them by any means, but anybody can use a referral bonus, so if you're downloading it for the first time, just trying it out, and you want to put in my name, the FF Educator, it does give me a referral bonus, and I'll be honest, it gives me a couple bucks, and I'm just going to put that right back in and get some more ADP by going into some more drafts. So, like I said, not an affiliate, not a sponsor, but anybody can get a referral bonus. So I have it right here, right above the video, the FF Educator, no space in the name. If you want to go ahead and put me down as a referral if you're trying it for the first time, I'd really appreciate that. All right, let's look at rookie production here over the last 3 years. Now, I want to be really intentional about looking at the last 3 years because I want to keep it in a short window. Obviously, I am not an analytics guru. I don't claim to focus on that, but I can look at sample sizes and I can see what's realistic, and that's what I'm doing with my projections here. I'm comparing past production over the last 3 draft classes, and I'm pushing that, I'm projecting that ahead with how I value these players relative to the players featured in the last 3 classes and what the similar skill sets can turn into for fantasy football purposes. So, let's start here at the quarterback position. Now, Justin Herbert was an extreme outlier last season, and y'all know I was a big Justin Herbert fan. He helped me out on a lot of teams. I was really pushing him hard pre-draft, and I pushed him hard post-draft. And so I was very happy with Justin Herbert's production, but 322 was his total production, 322 fantasy points last year. That is an extreme outlier if you're looking at the sample size over the last 3 years for the quarterback position. The next closest was Kyler Murray with 285, which is still a good season. But past those 2 guys, so we're looking at here the last 3 draft classes, some pretty good quarterbacks. Past those 2 guys, there haven't been a lot of relevant fantasy football quarterbacks. And you could tell here, these guys are in 2 different classes. So realistically, on an average class, we're probably getting maybe 1 relevant fantasy football player. for seasonal in year one. This is rookie best ball. This is a single season best ball, I should say. We're not looking out over a long period of time. So if we're looking at these numbers here, like I said, Justin Herbert, Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield was the next highest, 240, Gardner Minshew, 229, Daniel Jones, 214, Josh Allen, 208, and then all the other quarterbacks since 2018 have scored under 200 points, and we're talking about some good quarterbacks. Joe Burrow, obviously the injury factors into that. Lamar Jackson did not play a full first season and didn't adjust right away. Tua didn't play a full first season. So you can go down the list here. It's hard for quarterbacks to hit. So generally, quarterbacks are not going to hit. We're going to talk about where this year's quarterback class falls and how I kind of feel in comparison to that here when we get to the values. But to start off, generally, if you're looking at it, banking on quarterbacks isn't the smartest idea. Now, let's move on to the running back position because things get better, all right? I'm not telling you not to draft rookies because the running back position, it gets a lot more friendly. Since 2018, the average running back 12, which is the end of the running back 1 territory in fantasy football, overall has averaged 222 points. Now, since 2018, 2 running backs have hit that mark. The first one's probably pretty easy for you to pick up on. That's Saquon Barkley because he smashed that as a rookie. 385 points. Absolutely ridiculous. And Jonathan Taylor did hit that number last season, 252. And when we're talking rookie-specific strategy, by the way, you'll see Jonathan Taylor is going very high. He's a first-round pick right now on Underdog, consistently from what I've seen. And I've gotten a few shares of him at the first round. So just that's a little aside there with JT. Now, let's be more realistic. Most of the times we're not drafting running backs to get the running back 1 right away as a rookie. So what's a more realistic expectation? There is value at the running back position. So since 2018, the average running back 24, or the end of the running back 2 tier, averaged 170 points. This is all PPR, by the way. So since 2018, that gives us Miles Sanders with 218. These are their rookie season numbers. Antonio Gibson with 202. Nick Chubb with 194. Josh Jacobs with 191. DeAndre Swift with 189. And CEH with 176. And one more here, David Montgomery with 170. So those guys, as rookies, all hit 170 or higher, which was equal to running back, the average over the last 3 years of the running back 24. So we're seeing here, now those numbers open up, and we could see here, generally running backs can be good hits. Now, running back is a tough position with best ball because we're looking for depth. We're going to talk about whether it's worth taking those late round flyers a little bit later, but overall, running backs, they yield some good production right away as rookies. Now, let's take a look at the wide receiver class here. Justin Jefferson, he's the outlier. I love Justin Jefferson. I was hyping up Justin Jefferson pre-draft last year. Y'all know I was really hyping up Justin Jefferson post-draft last year. I'm on record very publicly as saying he was going to be my wide receiver 1 in 2020 seasonal, and he was, and it was very clear to see that. So I'm hoping somebody presents themselves in a similar way this year as well. But generally, that's not going to happen. Justin Jefferson at 274 points last year, PPR points, he's the only wide receiver to average 247 or more points, he's the only wide receiver to hit that 247 point mark, which is the average of the wide receiver 12 over the last 3 seasons. So it's an outlier basically for wide receivers to finish as top 12. So let's keep that in mind. Let's be realistic when we're projecting out this year's class. Now, since 2018, things open up a little bit here. If we drop that number down to wide receiver 24, the average number for that is 205 fantasy football points, PPR points. A.J. Brown hit that at 217. Chase Claypool hit that at 214. CeeDee Lamb hit that at 211. And Calvin Ridley hit that at 206. So that opens up a little bit. I think we could be more realistic about projecting a wide receiver or 2 per class to be top 24 wide receivers. Now, here is where you're really going to get your wide receivers. The average wide receiver 36, now that's still a very relevant fantasy football player, even in best ball, 170 points. Now, players that have hit that, T. Higgins, 194, Terry McLaurin, 191, Deebo Samuel, 189, DK Metcalf, 187, Ayuk, 184, Darius Slayton, 170. All those guys hit the mark. So the takeaway here is that wide receivers are absolutely worth drafting here in best ball, looking for some quick seasonal production, but let's not invest too early in them. And then tight ends here, it's going to get a little bleak. I don't think this is a surprise for anybody. Tight end production is not there as rookie season. Now, since 2018, the tight end 12 in fantasy football has averaged 137 PPR points. No rookie has hit that mark in that time span. The closest was Chris Herndon with 113 points. If you want to scoot down here, tight end 24 averaged 92 points, which is pitiful. And the tight ends that have hit that mark are Chris Herndon with 113, Noah Fant 111, Mark Andrews and with 107, and those are the only guys to hit that mark in their first season. So tight ends generally avoid. Quarterbacks generally avoid. Running backs, smash, let's go for it. But it's a weaker running back class. So what does that mean for us? Wide receivers, you generally want to wait. It's a stronger wide receiver class. What does that mean for us? Let's now actually get into some of the good values. And again, this is using Underdog Fantasy Football ADP. You can pull it right from their website. And so what I've done is I've cross-referenced the Underdog ADP with my seasonal projections. And for those who are patrons at patreon.com/TheFFEducator, on top of your Devy and Dynasty and rookie and cornerstone rankings, if you're at the $6 tier, you can also get access to my full NFL projection sheet, which is every NFL player. And what I've done right now is I've projected rookies. I've forecasted their production without having a landing spot, just by giving an idea of what's a realistic landing spot and teams they may end up fitting into. So with that being said here, let's go right off the bat here. And what jumps out to me as a really good value is Najee Harris. Now, I'm really bullish on Najee Harris. You should know that just from listening to me. But I'm really bullish on his immediate impact in the NFL. So his current ADP on Underdog is an ADP of 33. So that's almost a third round, or I'm sorry, that is a late third round ADP. I'm playing primarily in 12-team drafts, so I'm going to go off of that just for ADP numbers, but you could play in 10 or even 6, I think, team drafts. I think even 3-team drafts on Underdog. There's a lot of versatility to the site. Again, not a sponsor, but I do enjoy the product if you haven't tried it yet. So that makes him running back 19. You'll find in best ball right now, it's running back heavy right off the bat. I mean, you are lucky if 10 running backs don't get taken in the first round. It's not a great, time period to be drafting at 111, 112. It puts you into some tight decisions. But I will say that in the second round, that's where I would be happy to get Najee Harris. In my pre-rookie projections, and again, these will change post-draft, but in my pre-draft rookie projections, I have Najee Harris as the running back 7, 247. I think he can be the outlier because his skill set is so dominant in between the tackles and in pass catching, and I think he's going to get action in the red zone. So that's why I'm very comfortable projecting Najee Harris above what an average running back will do. And you'll see that's not ridiculous. That's not unprecedented. Saquon Barkley had much more than that, right? So it's not unprecedented, but it's bullish. And so right now, Najee Harris is my running back 7, and he's going off the board at running back 19. There's not a better value I can think of. I just drafted him earlier today at 202. All right, I smashed running back. I think I got JT in the first round. I took Najee Harris in the second round, and that gives me a really good running back core to kick off here when it comes to best ball this year. So I love the Najee Harris value. Now let's go a little bit deeper here. Let's talk about Jamar Chase. Now I just talked about Justin Jefferson being an outlier as a top 12 pick. So where do I have Jamar Chase? In my projections, I have Jamar Chase right now as wide receiver 15. And Chase is one of the highest rated wide receivers that I've had come out the last couple of years. CeeDee Lamb was higher, Jerry Jeudy was higher, and then it would be Jamar Chase. So the talent is clearly there, and I think he can land in a spot where he gets a lot of volume. Remember, that kind of hindered both CeeDee Lamb and Jerry Jeudy in terms of immediate fantasy production. So I have Jamar Chase at wide receiver 15. And remember, that falls into realistic territory because I just talked about there were plenty of guys that finished in that wide receiver 2 bucket, right? That's your A.J. Browns, your Chase Claypool, your CeeDee Lamb, and your Calvin Ridley. So it's a realistic projection here, but despite that, Jamar Chase has an ADP right now on Underdog of 64.5, and he's wide receiver 28. That is a 13 spot value. And I think once we get that landing spot and folks see that he's probably going to go to Miami or somewhere else where he's going to get a lot of volume, folks are going to catch on to that. So it's one of the advantages of drafting pre-NFL draft and taking advantage of these rookies. Now, on top of Jamar Chase, I want to talk about another wide receiver here that is not, two wide receivers that are not clearly laid out here if you're watching the video on the visuals here, but I do want to reference because I think they're sneaky values, although albeit a little bit less of a value. Devonta Smith right now has an ADP of 95.5, and he's wide receiver 44. I have him at wide receiver 33. So temper your expectations a little bit, but in the double-digit rounds, I think Devonta Smith is a good value here. I would take him as wide receiver 33. He's going off the board at 44. And I do have a couple shares of Devonta Smith. I also have a couple shares already of Jalen Waddle. His ADP right now is 109.8. And so he's actually wide receiver 50. And he's my wide receiver 29. And I think his high draft capital will push him up post-draft. So if you want Jalen Waddle, I would go ahead and get Jalen Waddle now. He's wide receiver 54, I'm sorry. So I would definitely go ahead and get Jalen Waddle right now. That's a good value as well. Now, back here on track, it's Trevor Lawrence. And I just mentioned that you can't get too excited about quarterbacks right away. We have a 5-quarterback class. So it could be really exciting for you to start drafting these rookie quarterbacks or to go after it. There's 2 guys that I want. There's 2 rookie quarterbacks that I'm willing to draft right now that fit in my projections for them. Trevor Lawrence is the first one. He's got an ADP of 114. That puts him at quarterback 14 in Underdog ADP. He's quarterback 11 for me in my projections. And Trevor Lawrence, unlike every other rookie I'm going to talk about on this episode, Trevor Lawrence, I actually can put a real projection in. I know the team he's going to be in. I know the scheme he's going to be playing in. And I feel really confident with that quarterback 11 projection for Trevor Lawrence. I feel like that's a really solid place to put him. So what I've been doing is really fading quarterback early. I think that's a general best ball strategy, especially this year with the way that we're pushing running backs early, wide receivers in the mid rounds, and then trying to grab up those elite tight ends early and then fading tight ends after that. So I've been waiting until, pushing mid rounds a lot of the times to get my first quarterback, pushing double digit rounds, I should say. And a lot of the times I'm taking Trevor Lawrence, maybe, right there in that round 10 spot, and then getting a veteran quarterback a couple rounds later, and then a third quarterback much later on. So that's kind of been my general strategy. And so I definitely have Trevor Lawrence in a couple spots, and I feel really comfortable with that. Now, the other quarterback, I mentioned there was 2 I was willing to take. The other quarterback that I'm willing to take is Justin Fields. I think Justin Fields is in a good spot right now for his value. And so if you're going to pull up Underdog ADP, what you'll find right now is that Justin Fields has an Underdog ADP of 148 or quarterback 20. In my projections here, which again are available to all patrons at the $6 level, that's I have him at quarterback 13. So that's a really solid projection for Justin Fields. I'm not worried about this, the rumors that he might be slipping. When it comes to the other 3 quarterbacks, they're not guys that I necessarily want right away for rookie best ball production. And I think that actually fits in the ADP. Neither of these other 2 quarterbacks are really pulling high ADP right now. So one more wide receiver that I want to talk about here, and that is Terrace Marshall. I am a huge Terrace Marshall fan. It seems like folks are finally coming around. I'm seeing a lot of hype recently, just like in the last week on Terrace Marshall, but I've been hyping him up for, I don't know, probably since September, October. I love Terrace Marshall. I think he's going to be great for fantasy football. Well, his best ball ADP is a 147.5 for wide receiver 63. In my pre-draft projections, he's wide receiver 30. That's a steal. That's a steal. So Terrace Marshall, he's got huge upside. He's a field stretcher. He's a downfield threat. He's a big-bodied guy, so I think he could get touchdowns. And I really think he's going to go in the back end of the first round, which means he could end up on a high-flying offense. Picture him in a high-volume role in Tennessee. That would be fantastic. Picture him in a high-volume role in Green Bay, where he'd also have the big arm of Aaron Rodgers to help stretch the field. There's some huge upside for Terrace Marshall. So I am happily drafting him. I think I've got him on every roster so far, or pretty much every one. So I'm very excited about Terrace Marshall. Now, let's flip over here. Let's change the Discord a little bit here. to the players I'm not as excited about, the guys who I think are a little bit overvalued right now. So I mentioned that real push to grab running backs in just general best ball practice right now. Well, Travis Etienne, he currently has an ADP of 41.5, running back 22. Now, I like Travis Etienne. I have a good tape grade on Travis Etienne. So this is a really good example of a player that I like. I'm not saying he's a bad player, but I have him right now projected at running back 28. So it's a little bit, it's 6 spots off of ADP. So, I've grabbed Travis Etienne a couple times when he slid a little bit further. So I definitely like Travis Etienne, and I definitely see the upside, but I don't think he's anywhere near as much of a smash bank here in his first season as Najee Harris. And again, I like Travis Etienne, but he's a little overvalued. And that's the same thing here is going to go for Javonte Williams, who I'm a little bit more critical of. I'm not as high on his game as a lot of folks are. But Javonte Williams right now, he has an ADP of 53.8, so he is going after Travis Etienne, but he's running back 26, and I have Javonte Williams projected as running back 32. So I'm not trashing Javonte Williams. He's still a solid fantasy football option here in his first year, right? I mean, running back 32, that's not a bad spot to be in. That's your flex filler. He's going to be in your flex spot. You're going to use him. So Javonte Williams, I think he's got a fine fantasy football projection, but I think we're overvaluing him. So switching here to the tight end position, listen, I know folks are going to do it. This is somebody that I just feel like I'm not going to have on any roster because we are just way overvaluing him. Kyle Pitts is a great prospect. From NFL standpoint, he's a top 5 prospect in this year's class. There's a good chance he goes top 10 in this year's draft. There's a lot to like about Kyle Pitts. He's a great pass catcher. He could be an absolute monster, but his ADP right now is tight end 6. Earlier, we talked about historical tight end production, and I know he's not your average tight end, but there's other athletic tight ends that have gotten drafted the last couple of years. There's other pass-catching tight ends that have gotten drafted the last couple of years. No tight end has ever hit tight end 12 average of 137. So we're now drafting Kyle Pitts on average to hit tight end 6 numbers. And again, I like Kyle Pitts. You know where I have Kyle Pitts right now in my projections? 148 points. That is a historical season for the tight end position. It's also tight end 12 this season. So Kyle Pitts can have a historical season and finish as tight end 12, which would be fantastic. For most fantasy leagues, you would be thrilled with your rookie tight end being a startable, a weekly starter, a reliable player, and you would get a tight end 1. He would be the tight end 12, and it would be a historic over the last couple of years. And I think if you go way back, there's some examples, but at least in recent the last 3 draft classes, which again I like to stay with because the NFL trends, they move a lot, and they're moving towards the pass catching tight end. So things are working in Kyle Pitts' favor, and even then, I don't think he's going to be able to hit that ADP, and maybe he does. But that risk is not worth the reward at tight end 6, which could be a really, really critical point of your draft. If you fade tight end early, you got to hit on that tight end 6. Give me Robert Tonyan, give me Noah Fant, give me Logan Thomas. I'm going to take those guys. Those guys are all projected right now above Kyle Pitts for me this season. Remember, when you're doing best ball, it's a 1-season thing, right? If you want to get excited about Kyle Pitts, draft him on your dynasty roster. All right, Rashad Bateman. I'm generally down on Rashad Bateman compared to consensus, but right now he's wide receiver 50, ADP of 117. I have as my wide receiver 77, so definitely lower on him. And another guy, this is a really good example here, Chuba Hubbard. ADP of 121.2, running back 42. I've talked to some folks who have drafted Chuba, and they're trying to figure out, they get excited about Chuba. They've seen the highlight clips about, and listen, I know not everybody has time to dig into the film. All right, so I'm not trying to rag on anybody for the highlight film, but I'm telling you, Chuba, I have him with a day 3 projection. He has serious vision issues. I don't know if he's going to be able to hit those home run highlights in the NFL, and if he does, it's not going to be right away. So right now, he's my running back 52 for his first season. I think if he's going to be successful, it's going to take him some time. But he's being drafted as running back 42. So I think a lot of folks, they're getting to the end of their drafts. They're looking for some high upside guys. They're looking for some flyers to invest on. And right now, in the top 250 spots on Underdog, there's 28 rookies being drafted. So, who are these guys that are worth taking the shot on? There's a lot of guys here that I haven't brought up at all. Trey Sermon, Michael Carter, Rondale Moore, Zach Wilson, Kadarius Toney, Kylan Hill, Trey Lance, Tylan Wallace, Khalil Herbert, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Ramondre Stevenson, Elijah Mitchell, Nico Collins, Seth Williams, Mac Jones. Those guys all register in the top 250 right now. For the most part, not going to hit for you. I get excited about rookies too, clearly, right? I love Kylan Hill. I think Kylan Hill is a sneaky dynasty value. At that pick, 193, give me a handcuff on a good offense over Kylan Hill. All right, so, if you're looking for a similar spot, much rather have a guy like Latavius Murray. I'd much rather have J.D. McKissic. I'd rather have Zach Moss in case Devin Singletary goes down. Because even though I like Kylan Hill, the chances of him, just looking over what recent history has shown us, it's not likely. So you can really like players and still fade them. Don't throw away your late round picks. Those are the picks that win you your best ball leagues sometimes. So overall, my advice with late round flyers, don't take them on rookies. And I'm the guy that loves rookies, but I'm telling you, it's probably not a strategy for consistent success. I appreciate you checking out this episode. I really enjoyed it. I will do a follow-up post-draft once that ADP gets settled out, so I'm probably going to give it a month or so, but I will do a follow-up to this video with post-draft rookie best ball strategy, but I appreciate you checking out this pre-draft rookie best ball strategy episode. You can get all of my rankings, see all of my work, get one-on-one consultation calls. We're doing patron live calls. We're doing mock drafts, Devy, Dynasty, rookie, cornerstone rankings, patreon.com/TheFFEducator.